I'm going to run and I'm going to do this really quick. And I'm going to throw in laundry while I'm doing this phone call, while I'm doing, constantly jumping from thing to thing. In the times I was doing that, that felt like the best thing I could do. And this time I'm going, no, I will not go the same route because my relationship with my children is more important. My health is more important. My relationship with my husband is more important. And that is terrifying because instead of going running up the stairs, you're now stumbling over rocks and boulders.
Allie, welcome to the podcast. I love that we get to sit here and talk again. You and I have had, this is our third time, right? On doing a podcast together. Yeah.
And I always feel like our conversation could go so much longer. I could talk to you forever.
It could be a never ending, like the infinite interview for sure. I'm happy that you're here. Thank you for taking some time and having this conversation with me today.
I'm really excited to be here. I'm excited about what you're doing in the topic because it can feel so lonely when you're a woman that is doing so much. We are a unique breed. And so I love that you're speaking specifically to women like us who need some backup and need to know that they're not by themselves, that we live in a little bit of a different universe here.
Yeah, we do. We do. And you brought some awareness to me, even as I was kind of choosing my path, just to give people understanding, like Allie was actually really instrumental, more than she even realized, in me choosing to go down this direction, because the things that I teach and share can be applicable to so many different problems in life. And I think something you said too, of there's women who reach a certain point, we're not really being served. There's a lot of resources that teach you how to be successful, like how to get there, how to make money. That's the 99% of marketing, right? Is teaching you how to make money, make your first 1,000, 10,000, whatever. Not a lot of people are talking about how to sustain it and how to really remain in it and continue to grow it outside of just the strategy conversation. It's always very like male energy, dial it in harder, more systems. So I appreciate the way that you've kind of had that input to even make this conversation possible. So what better person to go into this with than someone who gets it and helped me to see this is a very big need. So let's get into it. I want to give everybody the backstory and just like what your business is so they have some context. And then we're going to go back in time a little bit and just, you like me, have your little cautionary tale. We had to learn this the hard way, sadly.
I know.
But
Yep. Always have to learn through actually experiencing it, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, hopefully people listening can take a little bit of a play from our playbook and your playbook specifically and avoid some of those pitfalls. So yeah, I think what you do is amazing and needed. So give everybody insight into what your business model looks like.
So now what I do is I help school founders, micro schools, homeschool hybrids, learning alternatives. I help them to grow and scale. So I really help them hone in their messaging and build, but more importantly, to do it in a way that's sustainable over time. But to get there, to get to what I do now was a journey and an experience. I have worked with, so I started out as a teacher. That's like way back in the day. I started out as a teacher and I was homeschooled and then went into teaching. And I thought, this magic of homeschool I'm going to bring into the education system. It's going to be great. Got in there and I've taught everything. I've taught preschool through college, public, private, all of it, and realized the system works exactly the way it's designed to. And so I started working. I was like, parents are the ones who could actually make a change. I started working with them. And I served over 1,000 families worldwide. I've worked with families all over on every continent. Yeah, I think on every continent at this point, built and scaled a high 6-figure coaching business that way. And then COVID hit and my community needed other options. And so went from that to building a learning center, which was basically a hybrid schooling option. Kids were homeschooling, but they were coming to us between 2 and 4 days a week for a very unique, awesome program that is still running today. Scaled that up to 7 figures, a staff of over 60. And a lot of things happened along the way. I did end up deciding to sell that business. And now I help others build and scale, but in a much more sustainable way, because what I did was not sustainable by any means, unfortunately. Yeah. Even though the business is still running, it took a lot to get
unwind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Like I mentioned, the cautionary tale of when you were talking, I was thinking, and that's usually where the story stops, right? That's usually where you hear
Mhm.
the podcast and they're like, and then I did this and it was amazing and look at me now. And then there's a new chapter, right? There's
Yep.
like, there's the epilogue where it's like, and then I burned it down and then I exited, I sold because it was actually miserable. And I think
Yeah.
there's more conversations happening like this, but I still think we're kind of missing the point. Like there's a lot of business owners who've said, I'm burned out. I realized I don't want to have this and this and this. And it's like, okay, but what's the antidote? How do we not just like go through this era of everybody being like, I need to heal and I need to cancel everything and whatever? How do we even prevent hitting that point? And what are
Mm.
we doing wrong? And that's kind of, I think, what we need to shine a light on and almost be that guide to the women who are still in it and they're starting to feel this. So with your story and what you built, is there like a moment in time, or was it just a gradual thing to where you didn't even realize what was going on until it was a little bit too late?
Honestly, as you were talking, I realized that even the story I just told was my automatic, this is my happy, shiny story. This is how I tell this.
Yeah.
Because I think you're absolutely right. We don't hear the other side of the story. When I go on podcasts, when I meet new people, like this is my story. I built multiple great functioning businesses. I had an exit where I made money and now I do consulting. Like it's a very neat, tidy story that flows well, that people love to hear. And all of it's true. But there's a lot of other truth that is a part of it. So I'm actually, as you were asking, I'm like, oh, I just did it. I went into that like automatic answer instead of, well, I'm actually here and what I really want to talk to you guys about. And that is that, no, it was, so even though everything moves so fast. So from the time I started my working with parents business to selling the large learning center was only 6 years, 5.5, 6 years. That, and I had 3 kiddos, young kiddos, one who has special needs, and I was homeschooling them all at the same time.
Amazing.
It was moving rapid fire. Like to say fast, like that snowball was going so fast, but the burnout and the reality is that speed hurt me. It hurt me in my health. It hurt to say it hurt my nervous system is probably quite the understatement. It hurt my marriage. It took a toll on my marriage and it took a toll on my kids and my motherhood. And that part of it, that was a slow burn. So it was like everything was going so fast. And I was hitting all the things. I was homeschooling. We were doing the fun activities. I made sure every Christmas was amazing. Every birthday, like I made all of that happen. Right. So I was still checking every box. I was hiring, I was training, I was marketing, I was doing, everything, the kids in the programs, the parents in my programs, everybody thriving, like they're all getting the results, like fast. But the underlying, I can even feel it in my body right now, the underlying burnout that came and like the foundational crumbling that was happening was really slow and
Mm.
not very obvious because I am such a high functioning person, because I could get so much done.
Yeah.
And so that part was really slow and I did not see it for a very long time. And unfortunately, by the time I did see it, it was requiring a full overhaul, a full remodel. It was not something small. And I feel like I've spent the time since then looking back and going, man, what happened? When did this happen? How did this happen? Because not only did it impact me and my family, but I even look at like in the businesses, what that actually was creating. It was creating employees that could not function independently. And that was me. I did that, right? The way I was moving and behaving, the speed I was going, that I was not leading in a way that enabled people to function independently. So I was creating employees that ultimately we ended up with really big issues because I had created this model where they needed me as much as my children needed me, right? Like it was, and so I look back and I'm like, it was this constant movement where I had made a decision that everything needed me to function. And so if it needed me to function and it functioned better, if you can't see, I just did air quotes, but better when I was at the core of it, then that's what I had to do. And so my arms just had to get bigger and bigger and wrap around more and more, not realizing that by putting everybody into those arms, no matter how much I stretched, they were getting squeezed. It was
Mm.
hurting them too. And I look back and I am like, as a leader in business, as a leader in my family, what I thought was helping was hurting all of us. And I think it's the little decisions that got me there, right? It was the little things of, okay, I could spend 30 minutes trying to explain this to you, or I could spend 10 minutes just doing it myself. It was like
Mm-hmm.
those little things that just every time I stretched my arms just a little bit bigger to hold a little bit more for other people, I I made sure that I feel like those are the decisions that made the foundation crumble faster. I didn't know until it
Too late.
was much too late.
So I know, and that I think part of that is like you have to have that grace because truly, how could you have seen? But then even knowing that now, like because we're talking to women who probably are in the same situation, they don't see
Mhm.
it. Maybe, I mean, it's a miracle if they're even listening to this, if they're at that level of they don't have that awareness. But I
Yeah.
think the desire is more success, more performance, all of those things. So hopefully they've stumbled upon this podcast for that reason. But even though you didn't know then, now that you have the hindsight and it's 2020, right? Were there signs that you now see that you just didn't have context for? Because I want to look at this through two lenses. I want to talk about what you kept doing. That was a great example of I just became the doer. I did everything and I tried to expand, expand, expand. But then there was also probably messages from your nervous system, messages from your body that were trying to pump the brakes, but you couldn't even see it because you were like so forward thinking. But now in hindsight, do you see that there were signals? Do you see there were things that you just didn't
Yes.
really okay, what were they?
Well, when you first asked, I couldn't think, and then you said in your body, and I developed an eye twitch. My eye would
Had
twitch,
that.
and I thought, oh, I need electrolytes. I haven't had it's because I'm too tired, right? I'm like, I haven't slept well. I had developed an eye twitch, and there was just this overall feeling of, what is it? It's like a tightness in your body of like just always on alert. If I laid down at night, actually, this is a really great example. I used to think what I'm about, like, I used to think that this was actually a sign of like how, oh goodness, this is embarrassing to say, but like how good I was at things and how brilliant I am, right? It hurts my body to say that I said that. But I mean, I used to take this as a sign of, yeah, I'm on it. Every time I got in the shower, I ended up putting a notepad in there because I would be solving problems. In the shower, it was like, oh, that's what I can do for that, blah, blah, blah. And so I put a notebook in the shower because it's like, well, if I take a shower, then that's where my brain magically starts working. And all of a sudden I can solve all these problems. And so I would go, and I did not realize, I had no idea what that meant at the time. I thought that was a really good thing. I thought, oh, water is just where I think best. And, I had all these stories about it. Man, it wasn't until a good, I think 6 months after I exited the business before I had a shower where I just had a shower. And I
Mm.
remember like being in the shower and I was like, my mind isn't racing. And at first it was so uncomfortable. I was like, oh my gosh, something's wrong. Like maybe I'm getting sick, like something. I had no idea. I had no idea that that was a sign of being way over functioning, of my body not being able to shut down, the running lists at night when you're sleeping or you wake up and you can't stop. Like, I feel like we've normalized that so much where it feels like, oh, this means I'm productive. This means I'm good at what I'm doing. This means that my brain is, and it's absolutely not that at all. And I would
Mhm.
never have known that until being out of it and like really working on it and feeling what it feels like to have a nervous system that's not on alert all the time.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
I
huge. That's a big one. And I think it's good for people to hear because it is crazy how those lines get blurred where we think of that as an achievement. And I know it was
mhm.
uncomfortable for you to admit and say because now you have the insight. It's like cringing over your high school pictures, right?
Yeah.
But at the time, that was you achieving and performing at what you believed was good, a high capacity
Mhm.
thing. And so it's really fascinating to now look back and have the awareness of, oh my gosh, that actually wasn't good. And I'm sure you're experiencing what I have, where I have now built a business with a nervous system. It's still a process, right? There's still those
Yeah.
habits to trickle in to where the mind's racing. And it's nowadays with AI, I can go nuts and just over prepare, over analyze, and get
Yep.
into, chat. And So I see that those things still happen, but for the most part, I would say 90% of the time I'm operating from that space to where I've had those moments too. I used to think this was like a sign of achievement. Now I recognize it was a sign of survival. And it's
Yeah.
weird when you start, I just had a conversation with someone yesterday who's having the little moment, they're very brief moments where her nervous system is calm and it freaks her out because
Yeah.
this in my old paradigm means that I'm doing something wrong, or if I'm taking a break, or if I feel calm for a minute, that means something bad is about to happen. Like, we even go to the extreme of someone's probably going to die. Like, that's what
Yeah.
she said. Oh my gosh, if I'm calm, that means that maybe I'm being prompted to be close to my kids because somebody's going to die. Like, how crazy is it? That feels dangerous to be still. And it's because we've built this whole, I think we look at it as we got to where we were because we did this. So to put that
That's
down
it. Yep.
is dangerous, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
That's the biggest one. And being able now very intentionally, I was just having a conversation with some business friends of mine, moms, and it's just choosing that this time, this business, I will not. Like I will not do that. And then trying to internalize the belief that it's possible. Because the thing is, all of that was happening and I had great feedback, right?
Yeah, that's the
I
scary
had a
part.
growing business. I had people happy. I had happy customers. I had all this. There was a lot of positive feedback with what I was doing. So it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy. It's okay, I have a belief that the harder I work, the more that happens. And so I do more. I have a belief that if I don't do it, then it won't get done well. I have a belief that, at the root of it, and I know it would have sounded way too like soft for me a while ago, but had a belief that, people love me for what I do for them. Right?
Mhm.
That's where it like gets down to. It's like that's where connection and relationship comes from. It's from what I do for other people. And so it's all the same thing. But then when you're getting all of the feedback that's working, to make a different choice is very uncomfortable. It is very scary. And that the feeling your client had, that I don't think that's uncommon at all. I
No.
think that's very true because we also, even in movies, when there's quiet, it always means the bad thing is about to happen. Like
Yeah.
it's like baked into our culture. Even in music, like if it gets quiet, it's about to explode.
Builds. Yep.
So I feel
That's good
like
observation. You're so right.
we're trained for it. We're trained for that. And women especially, we are trained for it. So to make a choice that like this time in this business, I will not let it
Mhm.
go that way means that instead of, because we've all taken those classes you talked about in the beginning, right? We all know how to build businesses. We know
Yeah.
how to market. We know what a good product is. We know how to create a product suite. We know these things. So really we can just new business, pop up the staircase and run because we know the steps. And this time I'm going, no, I will not go the same route because my relationship with my children is more important. My health is more important. My relationship with my husband is more important. And that is terrifying because instead of running up the stairs, you're now stumbling over rocks and boulders. You know something's on the other side. You're trying to believe it, but every time you stumble, you're like, but is it there? Because I know there. And it's a really scary thing, but I'm refusing because you don't want to get to that point. And I've seen
Yeah.
so many people just leave, we're done. I'm out. I'm never doing this again. And I think that's been kind of a trend because we burned out so badly.
Yeah.
But I refuse to believe that's the only way. And I believe that women are the ones who will be the ones who figure this out
I
because
agree.
we need to operate differently. And the more we allow rest, you guys, rest is not easy. I don't want to make it sound like I've got this figured out. I literally, right before this interview, I had to sit and breathe and be like, I'm going to be here. I'm not going to, like I'm slowing down. It is a constant practice and reminder. It's not
Yeah.
easy, but I believe that we can figure it out because frankly, I think the thing that really got me where I'm like, I'm not doing this again is my daughter.
Tell
My
me more
daughter
about
just
that.
turned 10. My daughter just turned 10, but one of the things that I noticed when all of this kind of came to a head is that she would mother her brothers and she would
Mm.
go and take care of things. And I started seeing her put her arms out more and more. And I saw her getting frazzled and having, a short nervous system fuse. And I'm like, dear God, this is not what I want to pass down. And I heard someone say once that the battles that we don't fight, the ones that we won't push through, are ones we are literally handing our children. And I'm like, not as like a shame thing, but as this is really hard. It's really hard to be in a financial place where I'm choosing to do business differently and letting it grow differently because I'm not doing that again. It's hard to be uncomfortable in quiet, and it's hard to say no to opportunity. Like this is hard, but I will not, when I have a choice to fight that now, I will not hand it to her. I don't want her to have it. And I don't want my sons to, frankly, I don't want them to choose women who are stuck there either, because I've also seen the pain it's caused my husband. I don't want that for them either. It's hard work. It's hard work to notice and become aware. It's even harder work to choose to do it differently. But that quote will forever be in my mind. I wish I knew who had said it, because it is forever in my mind that the battles that we don't choose to fight, we just hand it to them.
Wow.
That's not what I want for them.
I mean, it's powerful. We need a why for our business to succeed. We need a why for everything. And I think sometimes we forget that there really does have to be a motivating force behind every decision that we make. And so even the decision to surrender to it being slow or different than what we're familiar with requires that, what you just said. There has to be a reason, because otherwise it's like, oh, there's no risk here, really. I might as well, right? But because you've seen it and you know what's at stake, and there's a line and a boundary that you will not cross, like that's really how we start to carve out a vision, because we know what we don't want. And sometimes you have to start there to really figure out what you do want. And then you lock into that, and it makes the hard decisions, like it is hard to do it slow. It is hard to not do what you know absolutely 100% is going to work and try it a different way. Like it just feels absurd. But it's worth it to you to sit in that discomfort if you know that on the other end of that is like a grounded mother and children who feel safe and a husband who feels seen. So, oh my gosh, I have so much to unpack with what you just said. There's so many different layers to that. I just wanted to speak quickly to when you said you thought it was a good thing that you're getting those like ideas in the shower. I remember being so proud and just thought I was like the greatest entrepreneur that I was doing podcast interviews in the Disneyland parking lot, because I was still being a good mom and I was still taking them to Disney, but like, go take the kids for a minute. I need to do this interview because I stick to my commitments and I have to do this work. And it's so, I'm getting paid at the time to do the podcast.
Yeah.
But it was like my sense of my values were just overlapping with each other. And now I look back and I'm like, that's probably early where it started, to where if I can do both and I can make it work and I can be creative with it and innovative, I'm going to do that. And look at how great of an entrepreneur I am. And I think it's tricky to convey this to people, because it's like, yes, sometimes that is what makes you fantastic, is your ability to get things done that nobody else wants to do. But and I think you just have to understand to like be really curious to find the line where it's no longer a really good thing and it starts to become, it's like too much of a good thing, right? Those traits that are actually fantastic about you that make you a phenomenal entrepreneur, when abused and when taken too far because you're coming at it from a sense of survival instead of alignment, that's the difference. And I think that's what I see as the two paths, is like, I did build my first business on survival. My first $1 million was like trying to compensate, trying to fix me, trying to show and prove and like dig out of this hole and finally have this and get caught up and like make a name for myself. And at the time I didn't see it that way. At the time I totally thought I was creating this amazing thing and I was so humble.
Serving and
serving, and look at all the people I'm going to be able to bless and how like these things are actually amazing. We can travel, we have all this money. But now looking back, every decision I made thereafter to keep that and to like operate in survival is what eventually led to the downfall and like so many of the dumb choices, because it was taken to an extreme. So I've had many of those. And I think hopefully people listening start to maybe just be curious and audit yourself and look at, when I do these things and I look at this as a sign of something I should be proud of, what's this going to play out and look like? If I repeat this habit over and over and over again, what might it turn into? And is this something I want to do forever? Do I want to always be like you, the doer that's in there and has to do it myself? Is that really the business I want to create? And I don't think you need hindsight fully to understand this. I think you just need to like play it out. Like pretend you're pushing play on the movie. You fast forward 5 years. What does this habit turn into? What does it look like? So that's my recommendation with that. And I think something else you said that I've kind of touched on is we have the proof that this works to do it this way, right? Like you said, the staircase. I know exactly that if I do this and I buckle down and I spend this many hours and I sacrifice this for just a little bit, I'm going to be able to reach that 10 times faster. But it's really hard to trust a path you've never gone, like you said, the boulders, and you're just kind of like flying blind. And I discovered my word of the year last year was surrender. And to see the effect that focusing on that, I've had these moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, I am making more money than I've ever made in the way that I'm doing it. Like, I've never made this much money in alignment. I have made way more money than this, but I would never in a million years trade that version of myself for the version today, even with all the extra money, because the way I feel making this and the way the alignment is there, that is not a pipe dream. That is not soft. That is not weak. That is not me lowering my standards. That's not me putting my goals lower. The goals are still going to climb, but I'm going to do it incrementally to where I feel my capacity is there to be able to handle every level instead of like, so, and I think what you experienced where it was this snowball, everything moving fast, sometimes even though it is overnight success in a sense, we work really hard and then it shouldn't feel fast, but it does, because all of a sudden it's like it's working.
Yeah.
And I think that's a shock to our system, because then we're like, okay, now game on. I mean, I remember saying a prayer. I'll probably share this on many episodes. Saying a prayer when I made my first like big check. My initial thought was, oh my gosh, please help me to be able to be a good mom and not lose all of like, you know, everything that's good about me, and don't let me be a disgusting person. And like, for me to associate success with something that was dangerous, that was a pretty good sign that I didn't understand, but I understand now.
Oh, that is. And that's the kind of stuff you think you're actually doing the right thing in that moment. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So for you, I mentioned like kind of two different routes. There were signs, and now you can see that in the body. And so if you were speaking to someone else, like what other things would you say, like just kind of be in tune and watch for this? How do we help people gear to not just looking at that as a sign of weakness or like a sign of strength when it's actually the nervous system? Like what other things have you kind of learned along the way that were trigger points or things that had you listened, it might have felt unproductive, but it actually would have been so good for you?
Jumping. So I like, as you were talking about the podcast at the Disneyland parking lot, we live right by Disney and we had passes during part of this. And I remember dealing with a serious employee issue on the phone in line for Dumbo. So this idea, I think one of the things that you end up priding yourself on, I think this is especially unique to mothers who are entrepreneurs. I really do, because we are living a different life, but that I could, what I thought was be present, right? Because I would work really hard to be present with my kids and do the fun thing, and then jump out and be present and deal with the business and then jump back in. And this like constant, like I thought, again, like this is what makes me great. This is why this is all working. This is, I can do it all. I've got this. It's okay. Women, we can do things like this, very like jumping from thing to thing and going in and out and in and out. And doing that all the time. I mean, doing that for months and years on end, just jumping in and out. Oh, the kids are busy for 20 minutes. I'm going to run and I'm going to do this really quick. And I'm going to throw in laundry while I'm doing this phone call, while I'm doing, constantly jumping from thing to thing. In the times I was doing that, that felt like the best thing I could do. Wow, look how much I can get done. I'm there for my kids. I'm there for my employees. I'm there for I'm there for all of it. But what happens when you do that, and I feel like somebody's going to hear this and be mad at me, and that's okay. That's totally okay. You're going to be mad about this because this goes very much against everything else that we were taught and everything that we learn. Just because what happens is when you're jumping like that, you're doing it for the people you're with the whole time, right? I'm going to be present for my child. I'm going to be present for my employee. I'm going to be present for my business and making this decision. And everything becomes external. And you're jumping and you get further and further detached from yourself completely. This is the kind of stuff that happens where you forget to go to the bathroom all day. And I feel like the women you're talking to have got to be like me in that, right? Like forgetting to go to the bathroom. Oh no, it's 10 o'clock at night and I don't think I ate today. All of this stuff that's not okay. And I don't think we realize the level of not okay that is until if you miss it, you end up, you go years of not eating and not peeing regularly. Problems happen. This is not okay.
Yeah.
But because you're jumping to get everything and you're making sure everybody is served well, you get so disconnected from yourself. And that makes it easier for these things to fall apart. So I feel like if you are somebody, if you sit back at the end of your day and you're like, I did it, I got this and this, and you can see that you made multiple jumps throughout the day and you forgot to eat and you forgot to drink your water and you forgot to go to the bathroom or you waited way too long to go to the bathroom. Like those are literally Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm talking the base level. If you're jumping around and everyone around you is getting what they need, and that's in air quotes because the reality is that because you're not connected to yourself, you're not actually there. And so
Yeah.
the decisions you're making, the way you're interacting, the way you're connecting with your kids, it's not fully connected. It's not authentic. Even though we're doing everything we can and we're giving all of our energy to it, because you're so disconnected from yourself, it's not authentic. And that's what I realized had happened with my own children and my husband, was that I'd created all these memories, all these things we were doing, but in a completely inauthentic way. So if
Yeah.
you are jumping, I would just encourage you to really look at that and really think about what that means if you don't remember to go to the bathroom when you are biologically designed to do that, to eat, to drink water, and what that means for how you can be present with people. Because the reality is, what I have in my own experience, what I have discovered is that being there for everybody and jumping into and out of things was damaging to everybody that I was with. I made hastier decisions or disconnected decisions. You know, when I would be talking to an employee about something. Yes, I solved the problem. Yes, I listened to them. Yes, I checked every box in the leadership
Manual.
toolkit, right? I did it all. And while changing a diaper, like I did it all. But at the end of the day, we ended up with relational and community issues within the business because I wasn't actually present with that person. I wasn't authentic with that person. I didn't even know how I felt about the situation, only how it impacted what I was trying to do, what was going on in the business. And at the end of the day, people feel that and it collects over time. It doesn't work. Like
Yeah.
you think it's working, it does not work. And the
Yeah.
further you get away from yourself, the deeper the burnout comes on. So if you haven't peed and if you haven't eaten and if you haven't had water, but you served everybody else, I would take that as a big sign of
Yeah. There's
you're
something off.
not there. You're not there. You're not actually in any of those things. And do you really want to be 20 years from now, 5 years from now, and realize that you didn't have any true, deep emotional connection to any of the experiences that you had?
Well, I'm curious hearing you say that because I see a lot of content where people say the hardest part of realizing you were in survival mode is that you will never get those years back and that you've blocked out and that you are missing memories. It's like gaps in your memory. Have you experienced that? Do you feel like, even though you can sit here and recall a lot of detail, do you feel like because you weren't emotionally present and you were just going through the motions that you have those blind spots too? Or are you just, it's easy to rewrite history and be like, I don't even remember that, or I really wasn't there and I don't even have a good memory of that moment because all I think about is this. Do you feel like you've got memory loss from those seasons?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. We have some family traditions where we go through at the new end of the year, every year, we go through our phones, we look at all of the pictures and we talk about it together. We talk about the best parts of the year and, all that we did. But if I'm really being honest with myself, if I look back at if we didn't do that, there's a lot of things that just would have never registered. And during those years when we would do that, the kids would remember something, we'd pull up a picture and I'd be like, no, just completely forgot. Oh, we went on a trip. I wasn't even there. And the things that did stick out were the things that deeply hit emotionally. So it'd be the really hard things because when you're that separated from yourself, again, hindsight, right? But when you're that separated from yourself, for something to hit deep enough to cause a memory has to be a pretty hard hit.
Yeah.
And so a lot of what I actually remember during that time is unfortunately really hard stuff. Really hard stuff. And it's taken a lot to recognize, everyone around me is telling me, no, there was good stuff. There was good stuff too, like this and that. And there's all the stats, right, of the good stuff. But when you're so disconnected, you don't feel that. It doesn't hit hard.
No.
So
And I've experienced the same thing to where I think I said rewrite history. because everything was so bad and because I was in such a terrible place, I would look at those memories and be like, oh, see, during that time, I was such a terrible mother. I was this and this. And it wasn't fully true. It was just, but that is my reality. That is truly like how it felt or how I see it, because I was so empty and I was so operating on
Yeah.
empty. And I was in so much like hypervigilance in those seasons to where I know I was there. And I know that on paper, people outside would say, you were a great mom. You did this and you took them here and we did all these amazing things. But I'm like, I can't deny that internally, I know that I was not fully there. And I know that I
Yeah.
could have been more there. And I know that even when I was there, I was thinking about this and I was worrying about this. And I was so wrapped up in my own achievement and my own next thing and maintaining that I was not there. So you can only argue that to a point where somebody could say, you know, no, technically you did great. So no, but I knew. And there is a
Yeah.
level of grace we have to have, and knowing that we're probably making it a little worse in hindsight because there's so much guilt and shame associated with that. But this comes up again for me, what you just said, and it reminded me that when we're talking, a lot of people go to the extreme where they burn the whole thing down and they never even want to rebuild, or they take so long off, because I think people need to understand what happens is, this is what happened for me. A success was associated with something painful. So when I think about Kirsten making $1 million or having a really successful experience, that is associated, like, think about the brain, your hippocampus, like that imagery of success is so tied to something so painful that to me it feels like it's an absolute. Well, I cannot be an entrepreneur because entrepreneurship is painful. And I do sometimes on a very conscious level have had that thought process, right? And it requires so much faith to be like, wait, is there an actual way that I could make that kind of money or be successful and not be that person? And that is way harder. It's almost like the ignorance is bliss, you know? I've seen what can happen. So I think I even watch people on a smaller degree do this. They maybe didn't have huge trauma, but they're trying to pivot and they want to evolve as humans. And they feel like, but for me to have success online, what it got me here before was this. And I don't want to do that again. You know, like I don't want to share that story. I don't want to exist in that space. And I don't believe I can do it on my terms. I don't believe that there's a safe direction forward where I get to exist and show up in this version of myself. So they don't do it at all. And then, but they're like not happy and satisfied because they want to, you know, it's this weird push-pull. So I think if you're in that season and you're listening, understanding I created a whole rule around the role, around the experience where it's like, this equals this. And that is not an absolute rule. That is just a survival rule that I created. So if you can question that and say, oh, is business in general? I mean, I was at a point where I was like, I can't business coach because I'm going to tell every woman to shut her business down, right? Because that is the lens that I look at life through now is, you don't want this. This is going to be terrible for you.
This is awful. Yeah. Oh, wait, you love your kids? Stop. Just stop. Yeah.
You don't want a business. You just need a hobby. You need a friend. Like you need your marriage to improve. You don't actually want a business. But now I've come full circle to where I understand that it's not business that's the problem. It's the way we operate it. It's the intention. It's all of the pieces and the way that we show up and the way that we're grounded. So for you now, as you've moved into the season, I'm curious what you're doing differently. And you know, on a tangible level, but even an internal level, what does it look like for you to check yourself? And a day to day, if you compared a day then to a day now, what does it look like now?
Okay. Well, so this was a very slow process to even get started again.
Yeah.
Because like I was ready. I'm like, okay, I sold it. This is what I'm going to jump into. And every time I got started, my entire body would freak out. And I was like, no, I can't do this under the like freak out. I also had to recognize that a lot of the people that I had surrounded myself with fully reinforced the other way of thinking. And so when you're trying to go through that and then the people around you and maybe are also still thinking that way and want the staircase and are trying to push you up the staircase because then you'll get everything and it will be okay. I had to take time and like really choose and have faith that there is another way. Start looking for examples. I mean, that's where I'm like, I need to see examples and kind of shift away from the people who not fully, I didn't leave everybody, but I had to put some boundaries in and shift away from some of the support I had in business because I was not going to build that way again. And I think you also have to recognize that we have so much, especially in entrepreneurship, there's a lot of bro culture stuff. And it's like, there's a lot, even if you have a female coach, there can be female coaches who still, this is the system that they operate on because this is what we all know. And so
Mhm.
I think it's really important that once you've made the choice to look around and clearly, with as much clarity as you can and say, okay, is this somebody who can breathe life into what I'm saying right now, or is this going to make it harder? And if it's going to make it harder, you might need some boundaries in place, or maybe don't listen to that podcast, or, whatever it is. And it doesn't mean they're bad or wrong. I think I really had to take a really good, hard look at who I was listening to. And because it's hard to believe in something you haven't done before, it's
Mhm.
hard to have that faith. And so I think making sure that you are choosing to be around and getting messages that will help reinforce going in a different direction is important.
Yeah.
But now, what does a day look like now? So one thing is that I try to listen to my body a little more. And so I do not start working before I've eaten or moved my body. I don't look at my phone first thing in the morning. I had to put some like really hard boundaries in for those things and be like, I'm not capable. And that's the other thing too. Like I had to be like, I'm not capable of
I'm a
sitting down to
child.
work. And
Yes.
I can't do it. I will sit and I will work and I will just work. And so I had to put some really clear boundaries in. And then I try to listen. And the second my body starts to do that tense, I set down what I'm doing. I take a deep breath, and then keeping work hours, like keeping business time, like this is when I'm doing this. And if I have some really insane idea, I put it in a note in my phone and I put it away.
Mhm.
Like I've had to, and guys, this gets away from me all the time. I'll be like, okay, I'm going to work. I have 3 hours I'm working on Saturday afternoon, and then I'm into it. And 6 hours later, I'm like, oh no. And, it's something I have to keep working on, but I think that's like the biggest difference is making, and then being okay with it taking longer,
Mhm.
because I am going to take a minute. I'm going to take a shower. I'm going to go eat and not be working while I do that. When I'm homeschooling my kids, I'm going to just homeschool my kids, things like that.
Yeah.
Um, which I feel like when I was in the middle of all of this, if I heard that, I would have been like,
Weak.
who's, yeah, exactly. Like,
That's lame. Watch
who is this
me.
person? Yeah. Who am I talking about?
Well,
Or even think I can't sit still like that. I would be going crazy.
yeah. Well, that's a good
But
sign. If they're saying that, if you're hearing that and that's your response, that is your sign. That's the sign you're probably ignoring. If you would go crazy because you're sitting there not actively doing something or you're not jumping, like you said, between the worlds, that is a
Mhm.
really strong indicator that you're operating with a very dysregulated nervous system that is wired for
Yeah.
survival and not locked into actually what success is. And I tell my clients this all the time. Do you have your own definition of success? Because if you're trying to create on someone else's blueprint for it, you will be able to do that. Like you can replicate anybody's journey, but is that actually what you want? I had a client
Yeah.
who was like, oh my gosh, I just realized I don't want a big team, but I think she thought that that means success because she sees other people who have a robust team. She's like, I lost sight of the fact that I never really wanted to have that many people working for me. I want it to be lean. And the thing is, we think that that means we have to make less money. But the reality is,
Mhm.
sometimes it does. A lot of times it doesn't. It just means that you're being a lot more intentional about how the money comes in. But man, we could talk for hours about this. I told you beforehand, it kind of accidentally happened with one interview, and I want to see if we could play it out in more. Having a live coaching moment. So I know we're all evolving. We're all in different seasons where you even can understand this. And I know I struggle still
Yeah.
too. There's value in still having someone. What are you currently kind of experiencing in this growth of your business and this new season that is still kind of blocked or that is still a little bit challenging that we could live coach on?
I'm very excited that you're doing this right now. I think visibility is how I built. Like
Mm-hmm.
I do well when I speak, and when I did speaking events, and when I'm up on social. When I first built my business, I was doing live every day, right? Like way
Mm-hmm.
back in the day. And so now what I'm building, I'm at the stage where like I need to increase visibility. And I have rescheduled my tapings and my video over and over again. I am at
Okay.
that. So yeah. So today I was like, okay, well, I'm doing the podcast. I'm going to have to do hair and makeup and have to be dressed. So I'm doing it. I'm going to do it
Yeah.
today. But
Well, let's
every time
talk
I get close
through.
to that, it's hard.
So why? Tell me why it's hard. Like when you imagine yourself doing the content creation, because you are comfortable on camera. And I've experienced this too. It's not that you don't want to be seen and perceived because you think you're ugly. I mean, maybe there's pieces of that sometimes where you're like, I don't want to have to watch. But
Yeah.
that's not really it, right? You might have an ugly day, but that's not it. So what is it when you picture yourself sitting down there to do it? Is there, you're not really sure, do you have a strategy, you know what to do and say, or is it like the fear of me creating and taking this time? Play out for me what the narrative is. Like when you think about it and you start to feel that dread and you block it off and you push it out, what's going on?
I start to feel overwhelmed. Like I start feeling anxious and overwhelmed. Oh my gosh, I'm going to put this out there. And then it's going to grow. And then all these people are going to want to talk. Then I'm going to have people in my DMs. And then I'm going to have to manage that. And there's going to be people I don't want to work with. And it's a sense of it feels like popping a cork. It's once I do this, that I'm really in this, and then it's going to go.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like I'm just filming some videos. It feels like I'm taking on like a mountain of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets
You're
really
like
overwhelming.
hanging the open sign officially with a business that you really
Yeah.
want to do it, but then it's still tied to before. When it was go time, you still have this whole image in your mind of when it was go time, it meant this and it was heavy and it was a lot. And so you're not even afraid that nobody will respond. You're playing this out as though once I put it out there, my DMs are going to explode. I'm going to have to navigate this. So
That sounds so like Trump is, I guess. In a way,
no,
but
it doesn't, because you're like me in that success is associated with something that was really hard and really hurt you, right?
yeah.
Before, when you were on and when you were going live and you were like visible as crap and everybody was coming to you, that is what inherently led to the problem. So there's
Yeah.
not safety right now around you actually being seen, because what happens after that is what's freaking you out. So what do you have in place, or what do you need to put in place that creates safety and security around things working? Do you have a system? And I think a beginner, I would never say this to someone who is scared to even make videos, because that's like a mechanism they use to avoid, oh, I'll go create a whole ManyChat automation. I'll create automate. They do that to avoid the visibility, but you might need to create that. Or do you have that in place? And have you played out what is actually going to happen when this blows up, when this takes off? Am I ready? Have I got the systems in place? So does that feel like that's the gap of what you maybe need to create a little more safety around? Or do you have that associated and already set up and there's something even deeper?
I mean, I've got like a scheduling system, so I don't need to be on social media, but I have not set up ManyChat yet. I need to do that. That would be a good thing.
Because even that alleviates the initial, right? The initial like, okay, you picture probably opening Instagram and having 50 DMs. And now you're like, I know that in a perfect world, that's going to take me 10 minutes. In reality, that's going to take me hours, right? So having as much as you can set up to at least manage that influx, so that then it's like you don't step into it and spend your time until it's like really actually necessary. Because what did you do before, right? I will do every step. I will manage every single piece of this. So what needs to be in place so that you're not, and your time is respected until it hits a certain point? So ManyChat, that might be it. What else? When you picture things like blowing up, what else comes up for you that you're picturing is going to happen?
I think like even more than the systems, it's that when I work with people, it's like my whole heart, right? Like I invest in them. I want to serve them so well. And I think it's, when it gets to a point, you can only give so much of yourself away, right? Like you can only pour in so much. I think this whole process took me to a point where I realized that my cup is not infinite. And I have an unlimited source. Even though I was like bootstrapping my own energy for years, I don't actually have that in a way that I feel like I can really serve my family well, be present for them, and serve my clients well and really be present for them.
Yeah.
And so I think I get nervous that in scaling again and building again, that I will not have enough. That I won't have enough of me. I won't have enough of like my energy to, because I've never done that before. I've always given from an empty, and I don't want to go back there, but I don't know what it's like. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know how many I can serve. I don't know that's scary.
Yeah. Okay. So since you don't, even just that, I don't know how many I can serve. There's a ton of uncertainty with, I don't know what my breaking point is to where I can give the level I want to give and is necessary for me to feel like I'm doing my job really well. I have no idea what that limit is. So of course you're not going to want to call in hundreds or thousands of people, because then you're now putting yourself in an impossible situation, rock in a hard place. I want to give this and I can't. So now I just created a problem for myself. Why would I do that? I better just hide
Yeah.
here and let it be really slow and not even put it out there for anyone. So even that starts, you know how I said like your own version of success? Make an educated guess or just like put a number. I would like to serve one person. If I only need to serve one, what is absolutely necessary? Like, let's whittle this down to the ideal client that I know
Yeah.
that I can give to and it won't max me out. And then take the one. Maybe it's 3. You know, maybe that's the educated guess. I know for certain that on paper, I have this much, and on energetically wise, I can give to 3 clients. I can manage that. And then as it increases, it's like, maybe I could try one more, but instead of it being like 0 to 100, even you naming that and saying, I mean, I'll just give you an example for myself. I thought I wanted to build this big thing, right? When it came down to it, it was like, when I look at the lifestyle I want, the type of mother I want to be, the type of presence, I really only want to work 10 to 15 hours a week. That includes my marketing time. That includes my fulfillment with my coaching clients. So if I already need to split that and half goes to marketing and content visibility and like systems and managing whatever, I really only have this many hours. So now that even just working backwards from a number standpoint, the max one-on-one clients I really could probably manage is 5. And that's even maybe too big, right? Because the depth and the level I go to with those clients might be a little too much for 5. But I'm starting there and I'm saying, let's go for 3. Once I hit 3, we're going to reassess. And now I've built it based on what my framework for success really is because I know my numbers at that point. I know how much money I'm making. Does that meet need? Does that actually equate to the success I want in my business? Does that feel a little safer to you? Like, do you feel like that's maybe something you need to establish to take away the
Yeah.
uncertainty, the unknown in even what you're going to define as success over here in the business and how many clients you actually want to start with? Like, then we can work backwards from there and say, if I can only take that many, that means my selection process has to be super, super specific. I need a wait list in place. I need to call in an even more specific client in my marketing because if I'm only going to be able to take so many, then I don't need to market to many, right?
Yeah.
Does that
Yeah.
even change the content framework and like the positioning if you know that as a
Yeah.
human being, this is all I really want to do because then I can do it well and I can honor myself and I can honor my family. Does that feel a little bit lighter and like maybe the
Yeah.
missing piece?
Yes. I love that. This is what I want to do
Mm-hmm.
to be able to serve everybody well.
Yeah. So any like resistance comes up with that to where you're like, I can't really do that, or I can't really like, no, and it's still, I couldn't really pick that out of a hat. Or do you even on some level feel like you could make that educated guess of, wow, I really don't want 10 clients a month. I want 5. Or, you know, I don't know the
Yeah.
specific model of exactly what you're offering, but could you kind of plant that flag a little bit so it's less, holy cow, I just have to react to it? Because that's what's going to happen. You're going to put it out there. It's going to turn into a reactive cycle instead of a proactive one. If you already plan right now that you have to say no at a certain point, now it's not emotional. It's just logical, right?
Yeah.
So how does
Yeah.
anything else feel like, oh, I can't, or any rules that come up that your brain wants to facilitate?
No, I have been feeling like I need to be doing more with digital products and significantly limiting my one-to-one or even like group because I think frankly, I just don't feel ready to fully. I've had clients, I've been doing clients and I feel like I'm still working through a lot. And when I'm working with them, it takes a lot of energy to not go all in and go back to old patterns.
Yeah.
And I think when you said this is what I want to do, I'm thinking maybe it's just not time for client. Maybe it's just time for digital products and clients might need to come later. Maybe I need to take a breather. I mean, I obviously have contracts I need to fulfill and things,
Yeah.
but I think that's been part of it is it takes so much right now. It's not just the energy of serving the client and my family. There's also the layer of making sure that while I'm serving the client, I'm doing so while figuring all of this out. And I think that takes a lot more energy than I have allowed for.
Yeah. Because we're really good as high achievers at lying to ourselves and having time blindness, not even just with the clock, but with our capacity. So we can measure what's available on the calendar. We cannot measure, especially if you have to build trust with yourself again. that's why I'm saying incremental. Like, I don't even think it has to be completely throw away more client work, but I think that awareness of, oh, this is more than just working with a client. This is a retraining of me on how I do one-on-one work. So I need to be gentle with that, be very, very intentional, not take as much, take it client by client, learn what I need to learn. And in the meantime, yes, maybe it is more, but I still want this level of revenue. So what does that look like to market to many and only focus on the digital products? Because now you just you just created a safety for yourself of marketing is going to equal danger. It's going to put me in the red zone again. It's going to make me act out the way I don't want to act. So if there's another option and it's digital products coming up for you, great. Or if it's even like, okay, that's going to require a whole thing. How long is that realistically going to take to build out? Maybe it's actually a way smarter use of your time, but you still don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater with client work.
Yeah.
You just have a different focus, and the success for you is learning how to work with clients and not lose yourself. That's success. Success isn't how many you take, how much money you make. It's rewiring and reframing how you work with clients. That's going to be what you're measuring success by. So that probably feels a lot safer, and creating a boundary around that than we'll just see what happens and we'll figure it out as we go. Nobody wants to do that when you've already experienced what you have.
No. Figuring out it as you go is a recipe for losing yourself completely.
Yeah. And you know that. So I hope everybody listening is hearing when it's a resistance to something like content for you, it's never about the behavior. It's the story underneath it. It's the protective layer underneath it. And that's why if we don't have an understanding and a connection to our emotions, to our thoughts, our stories, that's what's actually driving every behavior. And you could have plowed forward major B-roll. Maybe you still will, but it's less about the actual thing. And it's more about what it means for you and what it's going to lead to. So, I mean, you knew that. It just maybe took a minute to uncover what the real root fear was that was making you push this out. So I hope that's helpful.
No, it is. Now I'm like, okay, processing, thinking through it and what that looks like.
Yeah.
I am going to do the B-roll because at this point, I've made a commitment to myself multiple times and I need to make the B-roll. But as far as where that goes, we'll see.
Yeah, because now even doing the B-roll doesn't have quite so much emotional weight. It's just you making videos, right? Before it was like, these videos mean this. Now it's like, I'm just going to do the B-roll because I'm ready. And it's actually not really dangerous. Now, what I decide to do with them when I post them, we'll figure out that layer after we've figured out this, which is like the fear, right?
Yeah.
So then it just removes the pressure. And now it's just a silly little task and you're committed to it and you're rebuilding trust. And man, you just got to separate the emotion from the action so that you can actually do the action.
Yeah. Ooh, yes. Man. See, it's constant work.
Yep, it is. It's
constant work.
Constant. And this is why we need each other and we need community and we need that accountability and just awareness. Like, it's powerful for you to even have the awareness. And I appreciate so much everything you shared. I know we've been talking for over an hour, which is amazing. I could talk to you again for hours and hours upon end, but I really do appreciate everything you've shared. I know some of the stories you have given to us have been vulnerable and embarrassing, but I think if we don't shine a light on it, we keep perpetuating this. And so I appreciate your willingness to just kind of crack open and share with us what you learned the hard way and what's working for you. It's been super eye-opening, and I'm really grateful on behalf of everybody who's going to listen to this for how it can serve them and help them. So you're amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I believe we can all do this differently. So I hope if it helps somebody see that, then I am very happy and honored to have been here.
Yeah. I will share all of your socials and everything if people want to go connect with you, become online friends with you. But thank you so much, Allie, for just being a friend, being someone we can trust in this space. It's been truly a privilege.
Thank you. Well, I hope to see you soon.
Yes, me too.